Thanks, David. Welcome, everyone. This is a meeting of the Village of Sherwood Hills Plan Commission meeting. Tonight is Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. This is a virtual meeting via Zoom. Let's call the meeting to order. Just want to know compliance with the open meetings law. Brian?
It does.
Awesome. Item 3, approval of the minutes from December 10th, 2024. Those were in the packet. I want to make sure you've had an opportunity to look at those. If so, I'd welcome a motion for acceptance. Mark?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second to that motion? Thanks, Kara. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. That motion carries. Item 4, public comments. Are there any public comments, members of the public that wish to speak tonight? Shabna?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me join your meeting. I will not stay long, but I am again here to advocate for changes or revisions of some kind to the floor area ratio ordinance. Another family contacted me stating that they were denied permits and the ability to finish their attic, because by finishing their attic, they would be violating the floor area ratio ordinance. They want to use the space for maybe putting kids' stuff up there. The exterior of the house would not be changed at all. It's a family with, families are getting bigger with people having their parents live with them, and they need a little bit extra space. So, I know I'm not saying, I just want to be clear that I'm not advocating that we throw everything out and start fresh. We could continue with the ordinance as is. One thing for your consideration would be maybe getting rid of any part of the basement being a part of the calculation. When you get a mortgage, the bank does not consider basements as livable space. So that's something to consider. And then another consideration, I'm so glad, I think I saw Brian here, Berquist, because in one of our conversations, and I don't mean to speak for you, Brian, an easy solution that I think you mentioned was bumping up the square footage for the smaller lots by 750 square feet. And that would stick with the spirit of the law and the ordinance and what we're trying to accomplish, but just give those who live on smaller lots a little bit of extra space. That's it.
All right, Shabna, thanks for that comment. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak? Okay, not seeing any. We'll move on with the agenda. Item 5, certified survey map, CSM, for properties at 2816 Columbia Road. Brian, did you want to, Brian Mooney, did you want to speak to this for starters, or?
Sure. I can give a real quick summary of how we got here today, and then bring Brian Berquist into the conversation here as well. So Mr. Reber, who I saw is in attendance this evening, contacted me within the village a few weeks back, and we began discussions about a potential plan to create a multi-parcel project which encompasses the property over at 2816 Columbia. There were a few issues as far as my interpretation of the zoning code and reviewing the CSM. So this is where I brought in our village consultants, our village planner at Vanderwall, and Brian at Town and Country Engineering to help me assess some slight inconsistencies with the way that our village ordinance and interpretation of village ordinance applied to this particular plan. In my initial review of the CSM, believe that the plan was allowable, and I did have the consultants take a look at it to see if they concur with that assessment. The one sticking point, which Brian is going to speak to, involved the buildable depth and a front yard setback requirement with one of the parcels as designed within the CSM. I think at this point, if Brian wants to just cover quickly the one issue that we had and just kind of speak to how that was, or that concern was resolved, I think we'll take it from there, and then we can open it up for questions or have Mr. Reber add any insights or feedback that he'd like.
Okay. Brian Berquist.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me? I've got some new AirPods in.
We
Okay.
can.
Great. So I'm gonna just share my screen real quick. As Brian indicated, there's a lot of Brians on the call. The applicant is
Yeah.
Brian as well. So as Mooney indicated, the project is a little unique. It covers a unique parcel that's on Columbia that's fairly large, as well as its companion parcel, these two right there. The village code that governs this zoning area, ZR2, is a little unique amongst your districts in that, like your other districts, it has what's called bulk regulations, minimum lot areas, minimum yard dimensions. The front yard dimension for this zoning code or zoning district has some information about University Bay Drive, University Avenue, but specifically in the highlighted area has a clause that addresses what happens if you add up the front yard and the backyard, both 25 feet, and you have less than 40 feet left to put a building envelope, and states that in those cases you cannot prohibit less front yard setbacks in order to provide at least a 40-foot depth for that building envelope. That's not particularly germane tonight because what you're reviewing is just the certified survey map, which takes that large parcel plus the small parcel and creates 4 smaller individual parcels. The existing home is shown to be preserved on lot 1. And then 3 additional parcels are being carved off the remainder. They all meet the minimum lot size for this zoning district, which is 5,000 square feet. But all of them will require some accommodation relative to this 40-foot clause, whereby when and if the lot owners, whether that's Brian Reber or not, when they propose a house for lot 2, 3, and 4, they will need to invoke that 40-foot minimum building envelope depth, which will, depending on the architecture of that home, encroach upon the front yard. And each one of those building applications would need to be reviewed on its own merits for, how would that particular applicant address the front yard setback, which necessarily will not be able to achieve all 25 feet throughout each of those parcels. Again, for tonight, there are no homes planned for lots 2, 3, and 4. It's simply to divide the lots, and the lots do meet the minimum size requirements. They will satisfy your R2 zoning items, and a lot of the other questions are going to have to just wait until when and if homes are brought in front of the village. These 3 lots also will require sewer and water lines, in addition to electric and gas. There are sewer and water lines in Columbia, Dartmouth, and Sweetbriar. Those new homes would, like other new homes in the village, would need to cover costs for extending those laterals onto the property when or if that was going to occur. So with that, I'll stand by for the discussion. Any other questions that come up?
Questions for Brian Berquist? Mark?
Recording in progress.
So, Brian Berquist, so as I understand it, this is really just purely administrative decision based on the law, which is to say the zoning ordinances. There's really no discretion by the Plan Commission on this issue. Is that correct?
And that's what we've been advised by the village attorney. It's for this, the decision tonight, the discussion tonight is for a certified survey map to convert these 2 properties into 4 properties.
All right.
And any further discussion, debate on how a proposed home would fit on these 3 new lots, organically new lots, would be part of that individual's building permit discussion.
Right, and the owner's obviously aware of that risk, if you will, or that issue, as if he decides to proceed to develop the lots. But as far as the only issue before the Plan Commission tonight is whether this has met all the administrative requirements, and it sounds like what you're telling me and what the village attorney concluded is it has, and therefore really there's no discretion on the part of the Plan Commission. Is that a fair summary?
That is correct.
That would be my impression as well.
Okay, well, that makes it fast and easy. And, it just makes me wonder whether in the future, these kinds of decisions, which should be just decided by the administrator rather than the Plan Commission, if there's no judgment involved, if it's simply a question of whether it has met all the tests, and if it has, then the petition is granted and we just move on. But I guess that's for another time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
As it were, you have a pretty specific land division ordinance chapter that does require the process, and then notification of adjacent properties and so on and so forth. Just as
Brian, that was one question. Brian Berquist, that was one question I had. So the neighbors were notified on this? The requirements were met for that? Brian,
I'm not aware of the notification effort. That may be more of a Brian Mooney.
yeah, sorry, Brian Mooney.
I believe when we had the discussion with Mr. Reaver that the neighbors were in consultation with him. I can confirm the notice issuance and everything. I don't remember off the top of my head if that was issued as part of it or not.
Okay, that's fine. And Brian Reaver, I wanted to give you an opportunity just to say hello and any comments, any thoughts you wanted to share with the commission.
Hello, I'm Brian. Nice to meet you all. No, it's been a pleasure working with the administration so far. There's a lot of nuance in figuring out the, technicalities here, but I have appreciated, the support of Brian Mooney, Brian Berquist, and David Sykes in navigating it. And so I realize there are, some questions that are outstanding around the building permits as discussed. But yeah, I do believe the CSM details have been worked out well enough to this point. So thank you.
Thanks, Brian. And then Brian Mooney, this will be on the agenda for the board. We don't, this is really more informational purposes, isn't it, for the Plan Commission?
Assuming Plan Commission recommends approval of the CSM, it will be moved forward for board approval officially at the January meeting.
Okay, so you'll need a motion and second
Correct.
and a vote on this. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Does anyone want to put this on the table? Craig, and then I see Kara's hand raised as well.
This area used to have sidewalks on all three sides or on two sides, and the sidewalks have kind of come and go over the years. Does that affect the CSM at all? The presence or absence of sidewalks on these lots?
Brian Berquist, you want to speak to that?
Right.
Go ahead.
Not per your ordinance. You are correct. This is a very unique neighborhood of the village that some areas do have sidewalks, some don't. Particularly the Dartmouth side was of a long discussion at the committees when that was reconstructed and whether or not to include sidewalk. You do not have any ordinances that require sidewalks. That those would be taken up on a separate effort. Your sidewalks are all in the public right of way, and the certified survey map does not change the right of way. So there's definitely space in the public right of way. That'd be the grass areas adjacent to the roadways that is public right of way that the village could really at any time choose to construct or not construct sidewalks there.
Thanks for that, Craig. Kara.
Thank you. I'm sorry I missed what Mr. Reber said. My son's AirPods connected to the audio and it was gone. So, but I was curious. Like, can we talk about why why this property is being subdivided? I mean, is the obvious intention to build another home on the second parcel?
Brian Reber, to the extent you want to answer that.
Yeah, I'll be direct. I think this adds value to the property, and I'm, have not fully decided on plans yet, but development is certainly a possibility.
Okay. And so the challenges of the width of the parcel are, you're fully aware of them. And I guess I'd be curious if your intention is to seek a variance or if you would, because I guess if we're, yeah. Or is that too far ahead for the discussion? Because as a plan commission member, I guess if we're here having this discussion and it's something we need to approve, I guess I would like to state my position that, I think there's a trend against variances, just legally and also kind of in terms of policy for how the village is doing things. And I kind of support that. So I guess just to be transparent about the possible trajectory of this process, I just wanted to state that.
Thanks for that, Kara. Craig, your hand is still up.
Yeah, Brian Berquist, could you restate of the 4 new lots? Obviously, lot 1 has the current house. Which of the other 3 lots are problematic or will need variances?
The way the attorney has described it is not so much that a variance would apply as much as the code states that the front yard dimension shall not be interpreted, or the highlighted area. So where that comes into play is you have a backyard setback requirement, 25 feet. You have a front yard setback of 25 feet conditioned upon this 40-foot dimension, and then you've got the minimum 40-foot dimension. So the way the village attorney has interpreted this highlighted clause is that I'll pick on lot 2 here. That in order to meet a 25-foot setback, let me draw a little bit here. So we've got a 75, sorry, a 75-foot dimension on this line that goes from the front yard to the backyard. A 25-foot setback from the backyard is roughly going to be here. And normally a 25-foot setback from the front yard would be roughly there, which would leave you less than 40 feet of depth here. And what your code says is that the front yard dimension cannot be interpreted so as to reduce the building depth by less than 40 feet. So the building permit process would involve the applicant saying, hey, I now am the owner of lot 2. I want to put a building on it in this configuration. And I've advised Mr. Reber that this is the first time we've seen that clause be invoked, that there'd have to be some discretion from the village side as to how can that be interpreted, whether that means 0-foot front yard setback or whether that means some other number that might be reasonable based on other homes in the neighborhood and that sort of context. But it would have to be on each one of these lots to be fair, because anywhere there's a dimension of less than 25 plus 40 plus 25, so 85 feet. Anytime there's a dimension of less than 85 feet from front to back in the R2 zoning code, zoning areas, this clause would apply. So to answer your question, Craig, it would be all 3 of these new lots have one of their dimensions of less than 85 feet. Lot 4 is at 60, and that's a shared lot line with lot 3. So this line there would be where things would get pinched down. And I only bring it up so that people are aware that likely those lots are going to get a building application at some point, and that there'll have to be some discussion on how best to fit a new home on that site. But at the certified survey map level, the attorney has advised that it's just creating lots right now. That's the issue of the evening, is can the lots be created? And his advice was yes.
Thanks for that, Brian Berquist. Other questions, discussion? Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion to approve the certified survey map CSN for properties at 2816 Columbia Road.
May I offer just one small piece of history?
Go ahead, Craig.
Just the original lot 4, which is kind of where lot 3 is now. You can see the original lines. Probably about a decade ago, that was on the market for a couple of years. It didn't sell. It looks like it would not have been within that 75 foot. So it certainly was a buildable lot. It was small. But anyway, for folks on the call, it's definitely not a sure thing that someone will find these lots appealing for a new house. At least in the past, it wasn't. So.
All right, my question still stands. Someone want to make a motion? Mark?
Yeah, I'll attempt to make the motion. I'm not sure how you want that phrased, but my motion would be to recommend approval of the certified survey map as proposed for the address of 2816 Columbia Road. Is that touch all the bases?
Yeah. How about for properties at 2816 Columbia Road?
That's fine, although I think it's only a single, at the moment, it's only a single property, right?
That's true. All right, for the property at 2816 Columbia Road. David Sykes, did you get that?
Yes, sir.
Splendid. Is there a second to that motion? Looking for a second. Kara?
Yeah, I can second the motion.
All right, thanks for that. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Raise your hand. I want to make sure I count here. Okay. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, the motion carries. And as I mentioned, Brian Mooney, this will be on the board agenda for next Tuesday night. Okay.
Correct.
All right. All the Brians appreciate your good work on this. And it'll, as I mentioned, it'll be on the agenda for next Tuesday. We'll move on then with item 6, discussion of possible electric vehicle ordinance. Brian Berquist, I don't know if you have an interest in this. I know there was a memo in the packet from Vanderwall. Brian, Mooney, did you want to speak to this at all?
Sure. Yeah, I can speak to this. After our last meeting, I know we had kind of a running future agenda topic item for EV charging station or EV charging policy within the village. I worked and spoke with Sonia at Vanderwall and sought out whether or not they had any kind of model ordinance language or zoning language pertaining to EV charging that could at least begin our discussions on this front, as it's been something we've been looking to accomplish. As you can see from the included materials that I kind of consolidated down for our packet, the EV charging policy that Vanderwall recommends is making commercial districts a permitted by right use for EV charging, basically opening the doors to saying that we support any businesses who have an interest in pursuing this for their sites. Making it an easier and clearer process by which they can move forward with their plans and projects. She did note that we do have some considerations within the village where EV charging stations, you might have to, depending on the location chosen to be utilized for implementation, if it happened to coincide with right of way space, there would be some additional considerations that we would have to start to discuss related to that. But all in all, a couple of little definitions of how the EV charging can be treated as an accessory use to also further this discussion. And I just made this discussion item tonight because I think we're a little bit away from, getting anywhere with a formal policy, but I wanted to hear from everyone in the commission and get your thoughts and ideas behind where we can take things from here.
Thanks, Brian. Really, really good summary on that. Questions, comments, thoughts? Craig.
Does the flood area, the areas that flood a lot, like over by Walgreens and so forth, is there any concern about having EV charging equipment underwater for long periods of time? Is that something we need to be aware of?
That's a great question. I know a lot of the exterior EV charging stations are equipped and ready and able to handle weather elements as part of the review process for being approved for outdoor use. I mean, obviously, those of us who have EVs and have indoor charging in our garage spaces or whatnot, it's not a concern. I know there's different standards. I am not an expert in that. I can't speak to prolonged exposure to, excuse me, to water, but I obviously understand that EV charging stations have to be able to withstand rain events for charging for a prolonged period. So I'd assume an aspect of that would also be to prevent issues from subsequent prolonged water contact from like a flooding event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, in the context of the plan for the area close to University Avenue, in the future might have a lot of underground parking, which would have EV chargers. And then again, if this flooding is an issue, and very likely still could be, being submerged is maybe something to think about.
Yeah, I would agree, Craig. It's a good point. I don't recall. I seem to remember that the grocery store, the market, they have EV chargers now, do they not? I don't shop there very often, but I remember they had chargers in the lot. There was at least one, if not two, and so that's been there quite a few years. So it seems to me that there's probably design and construction standards to accommodate the different possibilities.
Yeah.
The multifamily projects I've been involved in, you're starting to see at least one charger installed, and then the kind of the conduit and infrastructure for up to 10% of the spots, so that the apartment can add chargers as demand increases. But a good question. Again, this is just for discussion purposes. Other thoughts, comments? Mark.
Yeah, so just to make sure I'm on the same page with you on this, when Vanderwall recommended that it be permitted by right, that doesn't limit the ability of the village to impose other ordinances, other restrictions with regard to those EV charging stations. In other words, it's not like unilateral approval. Now you can do whatever you want because it's permitted by right. It just means that it removes it as a zoning issue. Is that what's going on here? But we're still permitted to, within the ordinance, to craft restrictions and minimum requirements on the charging stations. Is that right?
I believe that is correct. I haven't gotten into specifics with Sonia. I think this was just kind of the language that they've put forward in other communities right now. She did include, which I didn't include for the packet because I just wanted this to be more of a discussion item, and I can include it the next time, from one of the municipalities, as this update pertains to their specific ordinances as they were currently written, with some additional considerations in mind. But this, I wanted to kind of get an idea of what were some of the concerns, some of the questions. I can bring that back to her, and we can further this discussion next month, and I can get you some answers on some of these points. But it wasn't a deep dive. It was just some intro perspective at this point.
Okay, yeah. I just want to understand to what extent, if it is permitted by right, that it limits the village's flexibility, authority to impose any other restrictions or requirements on the stations. Okay, that's it.
Fine. Good point, Mark. Kara, your hand is raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that EV charging is, quite quite regulated at the state and federal level, and I don't envision the village getting involved in, real technical details of how these charging stations and how EV chargers are set up. Fortunately, that's been taken care of us by the electrical engineers and others with a lot of technical expertise. But I really do support a policy that makes it that takes away barriers for building these in commercial districts and making more EV charging available and out there where there are already parking spots. So I think this is I like that we're talking about this, and I hope that we move forward with the permitted by right regime for EV charging.
Consistent with our sustainability plan too, right, Kara?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Craig, your hand is still up?
Yeah, I second that. And EV
Okay.
charging, the more the better. And yes, it's great that the state is taking care of things. We just have the flooding sort of struck me as being kind of a strange place for EV charging underwater. One minor concern, I like that the Vanderwall ordinance or the Vanderwall language talks about, a phone number for contact or some way to contact. That's been a complaint about EV chargers when they don't work. How to contact them. But I'm also a little concerned that space could be used for advertising. For commercial advertising purposes, because it is space that whoever owns the EV equipment, at some point, just like a phone booth, will figure out, hey, I could put a billboard here and and do something, or have a digital sign, or who knows what. But so maybe some limitation on any sort of commercial extension beyond the function, the EV function, would be worthwhile.
So no British Petroleum ads allowed or something like that?
There you go.
All right. Other thoughts on EVs? Mark?
Yeah, just one other thought, and that is hopefully these charging stations will be universal charging stations. Hopefully that is something that we can accomplish here, so we don't end up that it's with a single manufacturer and all of a sudden you have to bring your own adapter and da 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 da. So that's an important issue, I think, until we standardize the electrical grid, so that any car, the electrical vehicle, can get charged at any station. That's something I think we need to be mindful of.
Thanks for that, Mark. Okay, other thoughts on this? Okay, more to consider moving forward. Brian, you didn't anything else from the Plan Commission on this issue?
Nope, I just wanted to get it started and know what
Yeah.
kind of questions I needed to bring back to Vanderwall to get things prepared for next month.
Okay, and then probably have Sonia present at the next meeting to,
Yep,
so
can
that,
do.
yeah, she's available to answer any questions that we have. And I think that's it for tonight. You can see under the future agenda items, there's a lot coming up a lot of this will be covered in the February meeting. That's our intent. Anyway, Brian and I need to work together. Brian Berquist and I need to work on some things as well. And we'll bring those back on February 11th. Brian Mooney, anything else we need to do for the order tonight?
Nope, that's it.
Great to see everyone. Next meeting is Tuesday, February 11th at 7 p.m. Again, a hybrid virtual meeting. Motion for adjournment.
I move
Thank
the
you,
adjourn.
Mark.
Oh, I second.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Kara. Nice. All those in favor? great to see everyone. And Brian Mooney, appreciate your good work putting this together. David Sykes, appreciate your support. And we'll see you guys in the neighborhood.
Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Right.
Right.